Hey everybody, I'm giving a talk today about understanding transgender individuals, and I wanted to share my talk here before I deliver it because Lord only knows how it's going to go because I'm here in Florida. So strap in. For those of you who say that there are only two genders, I would like to introduce you to the roughly 5 million Americans who have some form of intersex condition. They represent almost 2% of humans worldwide. The most common of these is congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which results in a chromosomal female who has ambiguous external genitals. Let me pause here. I'm going to use anatomically correct terms, so some of this subject matter may not be appropriate for children, so I will leave it to your discretion. Okay. Back to congenital adrenal hyperplasia. A chromosomal female who has ambiguous external genitals, like an enlarged clitoris that resembles a small penis and can also include fused labia. These people have internal female reproductive organs like ovaries and uteri and vaginas. I don't know if uteri is the correct plural. You get the idea. If fused labia are not corrected surgically, at puberty, the blood from menstruation accumulates in the abdomen and can create serious medical issues, not to mention the inability to have intercourse. These malformations are normally identified at birth and corrected surgically on infants. Other intersex conditions include androgen insensitivity syndrome, which is where a person is chromosomally male, but the genitals appear female. However, the person is missing female reproductive organs and instead has internal testes. Two additional conditions that are hard for me to pronounce, 5-alpha reductase deficiency and mixed gonadal dysgenesis, I think I got it, often result in ambiguous genitals and a mix of male and female internal structures. The last and most rare condition is ovotesticular disorder, which presents in a person who has both ovarian and testicular tissue, with a phallus that's smaller than a normal penis and a partially formed vaginal opening. These physical differences don't account for differences in brain development that we see when we study gender identity. Male brains are typically about 10% larger than female brains, but females have a larger connection between the two hemispheres of the brain. Females use both hemispheres much more often than men, whereas men normally rely on the left hemisphere. Male brains have more connections within the hemispheres, where, as we already said, females have more between the hemispheres. Testosterone and estrogen levels during pregnancy affect the physical development of the brain. Testosterone is linked to aggression and spatial skills, where estrogen might enhance verbal memory and social cognition. Males have larger amygdalas, the human first alert system, but females have more connections from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, which is where emotional regulation and empathy reside. The key takeaway here is that science is messy, and there are very rarely perfect absolutes. Unless you examine a human being on a chromosomal and body and brain MRI level, you can't make assumptions about their male or female biological identity, and it is far more complex than penis or vagina. Now let's talk about gender identity. Typically, we socially identify as primarily male or female. Some people prefer to identify with neither or both simultaneously. Social constructs for men and women are different. Ladies, do you remember when you had to start wearing a shirt in the summertime, but the boys that you played with did not? Women, by and large, carry the majority of the household invisible mental labor, roughly 70% in studies. By the way, men think that they carry 50%. It's no wonder my couples therapy practice is booming. My point is that social constructs have evolved, and they're going to continue to evolve. The role of male and female varies radically from one culture to another. There are cultures where women are revered and seen as natural leaders. There are a number of peoples around the world that follow a matrilineal system where family names are passed down through women and property and wealth pass through daughters from generation to generation. In fact, the North American Iroquois, the clan mothers held significant political power, choosing, that's the key word, choosing and advising male chiefs. The women controlled property, agriculture, and had a major voice in decision making. So biology isn't clear, and social constructs keep evolving. So it's clear there's not an absolute binary when it comes to gender, but instead a wide spectrum that is much more than what someone is carrying in their underwear. Now I'd like to get more specific about the statistics around gender-affirming medical care in the present day in America. Generally speaking, there are an array of surgical and medical interventions available. The most commonly used is hormone therapy, which is nearly always partially or fully reversible. We estimate that between 1 and 8% of patients ultimately revert, but these decisions are deeply personal and often rely on external pressures like scarcity of care or lack of support, more so than regret. Top surgery is available, and between 20 and 50% of patients use this method to affirm their gender through breast reduction or removal or enhancement. Here in Florida, for example, the cost of breast removal is about $8,000 and is rarely covered by any insurers, so it has to be paid for out of pocket by the patient. Bottom surgery is an option that between 10 and 30% of transgender people pursue, which can include significantly higher safety risks and costs. Some other interventions for gender-affirming care include facial feminization, electrolysis, hair transplants, and voice surgery. One myth that we often hear tossed around in the media is about surgeries being performed on minors. I want to clarify that gender-affirming surgeries are only very rarely performed on minors, and they're virtually all done on intersex infants with genital malformation. About 6,000 breast surgeries were performed on minors in 2022, out of the 600,000 breast surgeries performed that year. Reductions, lifts, augmentations. 97%, virtually all of those surgeries on minors, the breast surgeries, were performed on cisgender males who wanted to get rid of man boobs for aesthetic reasons, not for gender-affirming care. There were 35 million aesthetic procedures done in 2023. Yet you're being asked to focus on the less than 180 procedures performed annually out of pocket with parental consent. By comparison, 20,000 penis pumps are installed annually in men for sexual performance enhancement. Let's talk about how you can be supportive of the transgender community, because they have a suicide rate 9 times higher than their cisgender counterparts. These people have real feelings, and they are some of the most courageous people I have ever had the honor to know. No one is choosing to be transgender for attention. They have to accept potential rejection from the people very closest to them, not to mention physical violence on a daily basis in public. While I'm not transgender myself, I've gotten to know many trans people in my practice, and I cannot imagine the internal struggle of looking at my own body in the mirror and feeling as though my own body parts are somehow just wrong. If you have the opportunity to use chosen pronouns for someone or to use their chosen name, just do it. Hard stop. You have no right to know another human being's truth, and certainly no inherent right to infringe on their freedom of expression. I am finished imploring people to be kind and Christ-like. You either are or you are not. All people are safe with me, and that's all that I can control. Have a great day.